Cool. All right. We got the recording going. So I would like to introduce Sam Rogers and oh, Ted was here just a second ago. Didn't I just see him? Ted Kunstling. Oh, there he is. Just came back. So I'm going to let Sam.
Yeah, I clicked on that because it had a red bar through it.
I'm going to let give Sam and Ted a couple minutes each just to introduce themselves, how you found out about us, if you're interested, and if there's any requests you have of the group. So, Sam, I'd like to hand it over to you.
Sure. Thanks very much. It's been with the group now for several months, I guess, and really I enjoy the conversations online. It's a lot deeper and broader than I would have thought, or at least I expected. So it's been really enjoyable, sort of catching up and seeing what everybody's working on and the kind of issues you deal with, and especially the depth of the research just blows me away. So, I'm, relatively new to this organization. I was actually referred to you from a couple of people. Jerry Leone at NMRA mentioned this would be a good one for me because he knew that I was interested in Civil War.
Oh, cool.
And my interest in sort of building this layout, completing this layout, is because there was a 62-year gap between the time I started it and now that I have the time to pick it up again. I was a kid and I was putting this stuff down. I had this, big green, piece of plywood that we painted green and we put it on sawhorses. And, I had all figures that I bought at Gettysburg. And I actually don't remember what trains we had, but I would bet you any money they had nothing to do with the period.
Right.
But I didn't know enough at the time to realize that. And then, of course, things happen. And actually what happened was my parents reclaimed the basement and turned it into a family room or a TV room.
Right.
So then there was no more train.
Right.
Something and then, so anyway, it's been a long time. And then as I started getting close to retirement, I said, this is something I might like to finish. It's kind of a bucket list thing. And started doing research and started playing around with things and doing a variety of different designs for layouts. And because I don't have the space quite yet, that was a negotiation with my wife. It's like, okay, do we really need a guest room? Or can we have a train room? I read somewhere that, when Rod Stewart was a teenager and had his layout was in his bedroom and Ronnie Wood would sleep underneath it, right?
Right.
He used to sleep on the floor underneath the layout.
Right. So
anyway, that was so that's still in kind of we may be moving. So I just said, what, I'm going to work on the things I can work on. And basically it's been structures, and then I've been playing around with a little bit of scenery, just how to do it.
Cool.
Testing the various things I see online, this or that. So that's my story.
And where do you live?
I live in Baltimore.
Oh, just down the road from me.
Yeah, I'm in Harbor East at the moment, anyway, and I'm very involved with the Mideastern chapter.
Because I am the executive.
I'm the executive convention chair, brand new to the position, trying to figure it out before we have the convention next month.
So you're with the Mideast region?
Yes.
Oh, I might be seeing you because I'm with the New Jersey division, and I think we're going to be doing some stuff with you guys. That's great. Cool.
Okay.
Well, welcome, Sam.
Thank you.
Welcome, Sam.
I appreciate it.
And Dr. Kunstling, where are you from?
Good evening.
And what's your interest?
I'm Ted Kunstling. I'm past president of the Raleigh Civil War Roundtable, and I'm also a model railroader, but I'm not a model Civil War railroader, but still enjoy railroad history. We recently enjoyed a great presentation from David Bright about Civil War railroads and moving the locomotives that General Jackson captured early in the war. And he put me in contact with this group, and I've enjoyed cruising your websites and seeing some of the work you all done. We've actually recorded Dave's presentation. I don't know if you have enjoyed that or not, if he's presented it to you, but it is available on our website, which I can provide to you if you have interest to see that sometime or want to re-see it.
Yeah, or if maybe we can put it in our archives for people to reference.
Yep. I'll put our website in the chat box, and then you can see how to access it, and you can and I could even probably well, probably the easiest thing would be just for you to go to the website to see it and go to the link there. So I'll put that in the chat box for you.
Thanks, Ted. So you are the chair for the Raleigh, North Carolina?
I'm the past president of the Raleigh Civil War Roundtable.
Okay.
And we meet at the North Carolina Museum of History in Raleigh once a month, but although we've been doing hybrid Zoom meetings the last several months, where we have about half of our members actually gather there to meet, and then others are still
Physical.
joining us on Zoom. And just like your group here seems to be from a fairly widespread area, we're getting participants from as far away as Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I've noticed in one meeting.
Got it. Great. Wow. So it's good to see. And we have Mike Winnegal, who we haven't seen too much. God, yeah, everybody. Cool. Good, good. Andrew's with us tonight. Hey, welcome, Andrew. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope things are well with you. Good, good. So tonight we have Mr. Flowers. And for most of you, you know that he's been doing the bench work for his line. And I'm just going to turn it over to Ron and take it away, brother.
Okay, so it looks like I've got the ability to share the screen.
You should.
Yep. So can everybody see that?
Yep.
Up and running. All right, let me get you guys figured straightened out so I can see all of you. So
Nice slide.
let me get started here. Where's my?
I always love that photo.
Yep.
That's an awesome photo. You know, I actually sat down and counted the number of camels in that picture. It's like, I got a lot of work to do. I thought I might get by with like a couple. But Jerry, we're gonna have to order some more things from Shapeway because I don't have enough camels. So just to kind of catch everybody up, I basically built a house so we could have an area for a train. So I have an office and then a 30-foot by 18-foot area that I'm working on Martinsburg, Virginia in 1861. This is the layout and the plan that I put together. And so I'm fairly well into the construction of all the bench work. And basically the last time you saw it, that's what it looked like. I was beginning to think about the furring strips along the walls, and basically wanted to cantilever as much of it as I possibly could off the wall, basically, so I could get up underneath it. And what I ended up doing in terms of the construction, and you'll see this when I come out, but it may make a little more sense. I hope you can see my cursor, but I think the last time I talked to you about the cantilevers, it was like, I didn't know if I'd sit on it, but I thought it would be fine for supporting a layout. Well, after I've got all this up, I'd stand on it. Because basically what I ended up constructing is 3 tables, one in each corner, one here with the peninsula, and you'll see that, and one in this corner, and then everything else is cantilevered off the wall, so there's access underneath. And then when I started tying everything together, I was really surprised at how actually rigid it was. So that's where I left off. And then I spent, a month making the arches for the cantilevers, and with the form and using epoxy cement to basically kerf bent them, cut a kerf in them and bent them, and I could get about 3 done a day. So you can imagine how long it took me to do 25 of these.
Yeah.
And I actually, a few of them didn't make it. A few of them didn't take. Yeah, it's a water-based thing, so everything gets sprayed with water, and then you put the epoxy in it, and then I bend it, wrap it around here. And as a woodworker, you can never have enough clamps.
Right.
So then I started. This is the wall that I built specifically for this, and started in this corner. And you can see the construction of that corner table, which is the only place that has a leg. But once I began to tie everything together, the rigidity was just amazing. So I just started working myself around the corner. I did miss a stud right there. I was anchoring everything into a stud, so that's not clouds. We haven't started painting the backdrop yet. So, and I just continued on down the wall as I wrap around the room, and these are temporary legs that would go in again. So I ended up constructing a table here, and you'll see that a little later, and just moved around the room with the cantilevering, and you can see the braces and such, back down into the corner, worked my way all the way around. I did end up adding, I think one of the times I talked about, there's a loop here where the dog bone folds over, and I had about 9 feet left to my workshop. And it's like, well, I could kind of build a staging. So that's what I ended up doing, was ended up building the staging area. And then one of the things, these came in really handy as I was doing this, because then I was able to, in a couple of different ways. First of all, they were all laid on the floor as I started putting things up, so I could actually get a sense for what the width was and the different dimensions. And then I threw some cardboard up on top, laid these diagrams, and these are to full scale. And now I'll be able to get an idea of where certain things do, whether I need to move where I have some different supports, so switches and things won't be compromised. And they also came in handy for, because this curves around, and there's actually will be a backdrop here. And so I was able to cut that out, lay that on a piece of cardboard. And actually these cardboard pieces have now been cut to size. So I can just take them up to my shop, throw them on a piece of plywood and cut it out in my shop, and then bring the plywood down, and it'll fit right into place. So I'm planning on using as the top 1/4-inch plywood. And then on top of that, I'll put 1/2 inch, both a combination of foam board and homostat, because I'm going to be hand laying the track. So that gave me a way to see where I needed to put additional posts and supports through as I curve that around. And this is where I'm putting the backdrop up and beginning to, and one of the things I learned, which I will not do in the other corner, is don't put a seam where there's a bend. That was a real booger to get to work out correctly.
Amen.
And you'll see that later on. So I'm beginning to extend the backdrop all the way around. The bench work is all completed. And now you can see I've got, there's the notorious seam. It's going to be a real pain in the ass to do, to get it to
Smooth.
pair out right the way I wanted it. And that's the opening where the track will go back in, and you can see the loop in for continuous running operations.
Nice.
And bringing it on around the corner. And now I've started spackling in, everything screwed to the walls. Everything in here is screwed, so it can all come apart. And I already found out that was a really important thing to do. The other thing I found really useful was the Craig pocket screws. And that's how I put all these cross members. And I've deliberately not put any cross members out here. In fact, I probably won't. The top will probably, the first part of the top I'll put on will probably stop about halfway out, because I still want to be able to walk up into it and get access to the backdrop.
Oh,
And I'll put all the scenery elements, because there are hills that go in here. There'll be a nice size hill that goes here that'll conceal that opening. Oops, I didn't mean to go backwards. And so now I keep stretching down the room. You can see I'm heading towards this far corner. Now that far corner, and I'll talk about this in a little more detail. This is the location of what was called the Colonnade Bridge, which is located there. And most of the elevation in Martinsburg is fairly flat. it rises up here, but it sits kind of down on a plane. If those of you that went to Martinsburg when we went and visited there, that corner is just, it's undulating, and I'll go into a little more details. We get a better chance to look at it, but that's figuring out the elevations and how I'm going to get a river that goes under a bridge. The bridge goes under the Colonnade Bridge, and there's a mill that sits back in that corner. How to access all that and how to make sure the elevation is all correct. I threw on a first coat of primer to the backdrop, and I'm still futzing with that seam in the bend, trying to get it right. I eventually get it. You'll see here later on. Yeah, there I've actually painted it, and I went over all of the seams. I went over with a second coat. I haven't gotten to putting a second coat of primer on it all the way around. This is the far corner, and again, I'm beginning to. I've actually put a piece in here, and there'll be another piece that'll go up because that actually sits down in, which is a really unique part of the layout, and it'll be real interesting. And it's been a little bit of a challenge because it's just not straight and flat. But you get an idea there of what things look like, where they're at, and because it's a little difficult because it's 30 feet long. To get a view of everything, I took shot a video, just kind of walked around the room to give you a sense of the size, and you can see the cross braces, and that really, I was just amazed at how much that tied everything together and strengthened everything. There's actually here in the center, there'll actually be a table where all the electronics go.
Got it.
Going all around the corner. And so this is the far corner where I'm still working. In fact, I worked yesterday on part of this. And you can see all the cardboard down here where I was cutting out pieces of cardboard. Anybody that's got large boxes, I ask them if I can have them. so I can cut out templates and then just cut the base down. So I'm pretty close to having the basic structure done. In fact, the structure's actually done. You can see all the cantilever portions. Yeah. But this is the part that's sunk down, and I'm having to spend a little bit more time on that sinks down, and that's such a prominent feature. I just didn't want to blow it off and not try to make sure it was done well, because it's a pretty significant feature. So I'll pause there, and then there's some other stuff I wanted to just share about some things I've been up to relative to the layout. But any questions or comments?
Yeah, when you, that corner that you say dips, what is actually going to be in there? Is that a landform or?
Yeah, so there's a bridge that runs until the track turns. That Colonnade Bridge sits down in there. So it's elevated at the same level of the track, but everything around it, and you'll see it, I actually have photos of the actual location, and you'll see how it drops way down.
Okay.
And there's a creek, the Tuscarora Creek sort of runs along the front half of the layout, and then it dips back in. It crosses under what's the East Burke Street that's located right there, and then the creek actually goes underneath the Colonnade Bridge. So you'll see, and I have some pictures of that and some additional research that I did, and some things that was really sort of fortuitous that I didn't anticipate having had happen when I went back to Martinsburg about a month ago. Any other comments or questions?
You said you're looking for big sheets of cardboard?
Yes.
Well, I have some, except you have to come to my house or work on my layout to pick them up.
A place that I actually went to, Ron, was an appliance store. They had these big boxes from refrigerators and whatnot.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had called like Home Depot and Lowe's and said, hey, you guys, and they go, we don't do that. We won't give them to you.
Right.
I'm like, damn. So yeah, there's a place right around the corner here, so I should check and see if they've got boxes.
And other places, bicycle shops.
Yep.
You can check out the recycling dumpsters. They're often full of broken down cardboard boxes, and you can slip a few out of there too.
Yeah. So that'll be the next step. Will be to lay the top on, and then landscaping and start painting the backdrop after it's been primed. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So you're going to actually use cardboard to make the tabletop, and then take the cardboard out to your shop and use those as your templates to cut the actual bench.
Correct.
And it's going to be a solid bench across the
Yeah,
whole?
so it'll be a solid bench. It'll be for the, except for a couple of locations, this corner,
Right.
which will probably end up having to be eggshelled, you know what I'm saying? To
Right.
create some of the contours and the drop, because it really does drop dramatically. Uh, But yeah, I'll use the cardboard to make templates, and then I'll actually cut because I want to hand lay the track, and foam board isn't really, because I'll put 1/2-inch foam board on top of it, on top of the plywood. But I want to use homostat, the paper.
Homosote.
Homosote, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to use homosote, so I'll cut out the stretches in these plans where the track goes.
Right.
And then I'll cut that out and insert that in, so I only have it in locations where I have track.
Perfect.
So then I've got a good surface to lay the track on.
Have you looked at Home Depot for the rolls of cardboard that they carry?
I want it, if I can get it, I want it free,
Well, it's a
because I'm asking my wife. to
material,
spend
it's a
enough money
temporary
as it
walkway.
is.
It's used for temporary walkways,
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
and it's about, yeah, that's
That might
cardboard.
work. Yeah, that might work. That's a good idea. Thanks, Tom. I hadn't thought about that, but that might be a good plan. Yeah, to do that, to make the templates.
We're looking at using it for the wall for, painting the backdrops,
Interesting.
but you might look at that.
So one of the things that I'm really fascinated in, I'll kind of move on, is, first of all, I'm in contact with the B&O archivist, and back and forth, and all they really have are the B&O business records from this period. So I've gotten some of those. But one of the things that was really interesting was that out of the blue, he sends me an email and says, hey, you should check out the National Archives, because they've got all the engineering records from this period of time. And so I haven't quite gotten that far yet, but I've begun to hunt and peck around to see from the 1860s and that original roundhouse, and in terms of the structures that were there and that were present at the time. So that's the first little piece in terms of research.
Cool.
And then I went down to visit my son about a month ago, helping do some things at a new house he just bought. And on my way back, I thought I wanted to take, because of this corner that you're looking at, to get a real handle for what the topography is really like. And so this is a map of the area that I'm actually modeling. In fact, it actually extends out a little further on either side in the layout. But this area right here, up here in this corner, this is where the Colonnade Bridge was. This is East Burke Street, and it goes under the railroad. And the Colonnade Bridge actually extended all the way past the Tuscarora River, which goes underneath that. And there's also a mill here, and there was, I believe it's called a slough that also diverted from the creek, so that it would run the mill. So I wanted to go get a picture of this area. So that's kind of where I started heading. And this is the picture of the Colonnade Bridge, which is actually taken from this direction. So that's the Colonnade Bridge, and it extends for several hundred yards.
Right.
And so I drove down, and this is where the Colonnade Bridge was located. So people thought I was nuts, because I'm standing out in the middle of the road taking pictures of a bridge. And I also kind of wanted that elevation look, as I'm thinking in terms of backdrop and what can I see, and how do I create vanishing points in the backdrop and those kind of things.
Brilliant.
And so, yeah, and all these people are sitting now. This is a real hot July day, and all these people are sitting out on their front porches going, we got some nut here, because I'm taking pictures. And so I drove down further, and I parked my pickup truck over here, and one of the things I noticed was that all of this stuff is new. These fences. There's a placard down here, but this is where the Colonnade Bridge was. It started here, and it runs way back in to the west here. And this is what remains of it. And one of the things that I found out was the Colonnade Bridge is actually still there. When it was destroyed by Jackson in 1861, when they rebuilt this, they built these walls. and they just buried the remains of the bridge in here. So it's actually still here.
Oh, wow.
But you can see the Tuscarora Creek runs under the road here, travels along next to where the bridge would be located, and then makes a right-hand turn to where the mill would be located back in here. And so I got this photograph, and I had never seen that placard. And again, this is another photo of that bridge.
Wow.
These are some other.
Think cement. Is that cement? I mean, I wouldn't think so, but what is that made out of?
If you look really carefully, you can actually see seams
Blocked.
right here.
Yeah.
So I'm under the opinion that it was carved granite stone that were carved into pillars. And you can just barely make out seam lines. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what this was made out of so I can recreate it. And this is, I'm still not sure. And I've talked to the archivists and they're not real sure what this was constructed of.
Ron?
Yeah.
I believe it's a truss bridge. When you talk about covered bridges, in this case, the track's running on top, is it not?
Correct. They're up here.
Okay, and so that wood is just siding, just like on a covered bridge to help protect the trusses.
Interesting.
Oh, that's cool, DC. Yeah.
So this is, again, this is that same picture there on the lower right corner. This is a drawing that was done, and you can see the seam lines. So these weren't solid carved. These are built by stone. This is when the bridge was destroyed by Jackson, and this is the other side of the bridge. So this is the mill. I'm not real sure that it's quite accurate because of some of the elevation issues. The slough is here, the water wheel's on the other side, and from what I've seen, it was actually on this side of the building, but it's neither here nor there.
It looks like part of that bridge is a covered bridge on the picture you show.
Well, there's another bridge that runs underneath this, and this right there is the source of water for the
Mill?
The
Slough?
water wheel.
Yeah.
And that's the Burke Street Bridge. Well, anyways, so I went up to this placard and I'd never seen it before. And so this placard had all this information about the Colonnade Bridge and the location of the mill. I've never seen this map. So it's what I understand, it's the property of the CSX Railroad. And this is, again, Burke Street. This is the overpass right now, or the underpass right now. The Colonnade Bridge ran all the way here, and you can see the Tuscarora Creek running along, going underneath the Burke Street, and then the old mill, which is located here. There's nothing that remains of it now. It's just an empty lot.
Right.
I've actually driven down in there. So I just stumbled upon this, and now there's another map that will give me some insight into it. So
how many tracks cross the bridge? Is it a single track or is it multiple tracks?
This is the stretch of track from Pigeon Lookout to, I'm trying to think what was west of it, was at that time the only 2-track stretch of the B&O Railroad that was in existence. So it's a double track across there, and I'm trying to remember, it goes about another 10 miles to the west of Martinsburg, and it was all double track. Right. In fact, that's actually how Jackson was able to secure everything. So the points where those 2 tracks come together on either side, he occupied those places at a certain time in the morning when he knew all the trains would be in between, and trapped all those trains. So that was how he was able to capture all those that he ends up transporting down to Winchester.
Hey, Don, can I ask you, Ron, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Were you able to walk? You said it was an empty lot where the mill had been.
Yeah.
Were you able to walk around on that lot?
Yes.
They didn't have any like foundation stones that you could see? Nothing like that.
It was unfortunately, it appeared that there was some construction going on. So it was a lot of it was, I actually drove my truck back in there. And it was pretty messy. But yeah, there is a house that sits back in here.
Okay.
But other than that, this is all empty, and they were doing road work and there was some construction going on. So yeah,
I was gonna say it could all be buried, with all the work.
And a lot of the things that I'm finding is some of the elevations today, they've actually buried portions of the creek.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
things like that to put roads in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like present day elevations aren't necessarily the way the ground appeared at that time. So then I decided to drive over because I wanted to get the picture that I have in my background. I've always been searching for where that photograph was actually taken. So I drove all the way down to the other side of the roundhouse. And there's another placard that I had never seen before that's on the spot where this photograph was taken.
Oh,
And one of the things that I've always questioned was when this roundhouse was destroyed, did they just simply build the 1857 version would destroy in right on top of it? Okay. And there was no real way to figure that out, except once I figured out where this photo was taken, which is where I'm standing right there. And this is the present day Martinsburg. And this was the roundhouse that was built on that. So it really gives me a sense that this roundhouse that was constructed after the first one was destroyed was actually built on the same ground and in the same location as the original. And so one of the questions we asked, and I remember Tom and I talking about it, I wonder if this is the same turntable pit that was used at the time of the Civil War.
Right.
And now it's like, in all probability, because their locations match so well, that they just built over the foundation that was there and put this structure up.
that's a great, that's one of those little pieces to the puzzle that's like, oh, that's so cool, Ron.
It's just fascinating. It's like, so at some point in time, I would, except I don't know if I can build that many camels. Jerry, you got any free time?
Jerry will have free time. He's gonna sell his boat.
Keep in mind, some of those can be static models, Ron.
That is true. I'd like to recreate that photo.
I like those two photos on the top one of the present day and the historic photo.
Yeah.
Because you can see where the white doors are. You can see the two windows on either side.
Yep.
And you see that down below, and you just see it mirrored as you're going around. It was
fascinating, and I had never seen that placard before. And I just drove over there and was hunting around, and they must have done some historical stuff in the last 2 or 3 years, and sort of put some historical markers up and things like that. And so they put this up, and I just kind of stumbled on it, and it's like, that's the fascinating thing. And as a historian, I do historical research and spend a lot of time in old archives. And it's always fascinating when you stumble on the things.
Yeah.
It's just inadvertently, and then it sort of lines up and you go, huh, that's interesting. So it'd be really nice if they've got some engineering information as to how the structure was actually built.
Wow.
And now I've got a pretty good sense that the round table and the pit were located here, and that I'll be able to recreate that. I know this building wasn't present. There was actually a building over here. So there's some bits and pieces that there is a building back in here that you can barely see, but it's not this structure. That's too large. But and that's kind of the fun of it all. It's like, and it was just on a lark. I'm driving on the freeway back from my son, and I thought, what the hell? I'll take a half an hour, 45 minutes, and jump into Martinsburg and get a couple pictures. And I did do what Charlie said to do. I also went on to Google, and have gotten some drop down into the Google app, Google Maps, and been able to take some treetop photos, again, to get some perspective and sense about painting the backdrop and how to get the depth and those kind of things. So we're making progress. Hopefully I'm putting topping on it here before Christmas.
Ron, another question. In the image in the upper left of the current day roundhouse, I don't remember there being 2 tones of brick, but there look like there are 2 tones of brick in that image.
There's been some damage, and they've done some repair work. Actually the roof is brand new. The roof was this one is not original. I think this was built in 67. Might have been 67 was when I think these structures were actually put up. This was so bad and so rotted, they had to replace this whole upper structure. So I suspect they did some brickwork, because the other roundhouse, which is just a piece, which burned down, is over here, and that was built several years later. This is the newer one over here, and this is the older one.
Right.
If you look at those, the windows and the arched in places around those windows, it looks like the lower part is almost identical.
Mhm.
That's what I was saying earlier,
And the
yeah.
window pattern, you've got the big open arches in the old photo, and they've been bricked up and small windows put in them
Right.
in the more contemporary ones. But the number of arches is about the same. You have the corner arch
Yep.
and the number of them going down toward the right and the smaller windows in between. And then under the dome, which is presumably over the turntable, and the old picture, there's sort of a low base that looks very similar to the lower part of the modern dome, but just the top part of it's been changed. So I'll bet you that really is, you know, a lot of the original building there that's just been redone.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and I'd assume a lot of the brickwork would survive. It would be all the wooden structures that would have burned.
Yeah.
And then
Have
they
you come
they
across
replaced
any
it.
records?
Hmm?
I'm sorry, Ron, have you come across any records about what was left of the roundhouse after it was burned?
There's actually a drawing that appeared in Harper's Weekly, and the brick walls all remain standing. It was all the wood structures. I'm sure the roof burned.
Yeah,
All the beam
Sure.
structures and that thing. It's all been replaced with cast iron, and that's what they replaced it with. So yeah, it's very possible that a good portion of this. There's a drawing that was done that appeared in Harper's Weekly that shows all these walls still standing and without a roof.
Hmm.
So it's all been, and I think at one time I shared, did I want to build it the day before it got burned down or the day after it got burned down? If all I had to do was put up brick walls, I wouldn't have to worry about how am I gonna, because I want the roof to be able to come off.
Right.
And you know, how, because this isn't something I won't buy a kit for. I mean,
No.
I can buy a kit for the turntable. What is it, Diamond? They make
Diamond
yeah,
scale.
I can
Scale,
get
yeah.
a nice turntable kit, but I'm not finding a kit for this or anything I could even kit bash.
No, baby.
This is gonna have to be all scratch built, and so,
Right.
just speculating, but in that upper photo, the difference in the brick color could be brick that the newer brick is just a slightly different color, you know, depending on the source of the clay.
yeah, depends on where they get it from.
So
I'm so used to railroads being as cheap as they can. That
They
fancy
reuse-
work at the roof edge on the old building,
Yeah,
that mill work, I'm not used to seeing it on something like as utilitarian as a roundhouse.
yeah. No,
Yeah. That dental. Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they used as many of the bricks that were there from the building that got burned.
Heck yeah.
Reuse them to build things, so yeah.
So Ron, as I'm looking at the roof on the period photo, is that a metal? It looks like it's a metal roof. Yeah.
I'm beginning to think the same thing because of the type of striation, and you can see panel lines there.
Yep.
And I'm beginning to think that it's some kind of a tin kind of roof
I would say so.
that was on the structure.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the little detail like that,
Right.
that's fascinating.
Yeah. I think it's called architectural dental or dental architectural.
Yeah.
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 When we were in Savannah, the old roundhouse roof that was surviving was sheet iron, not
Right.
tin.
Right.
Hmm.
you could do that dental molding to the roof. And so you use the steeple as your handle to take the roof off and on. And the dental molding, since it overlays the other brick, hides the seam. So it doesn't have to be
Perfect.
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. I'm just trying to figure out how I do all these.
All the dormers. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I've got a couple architectural friends. I'm gonna take a look at the picture and give me some.
There you go. Yeah.
How that would be. So,
Amen.
yeah, and I'd like to finish the interior, take the roof off and then be able to put a full finish with the trusses, and I'm sure that it was a lot of fairly large timber
Right.
that was used in the construction. And some of the stuff from Savannah, the plate, do you remember the plates the stone plates they had in the ground that the timber
Yes.
sat on and all that sort of stuff. I mean, so, you know, we go to these trips and you always pick up something like that. And it's like, so I got pictures of all these little stone plates thinking this might be something that comes in handy.
Well, I forget who I was with. It was Mark Richardson or somebody. I took a photo of one of those foot prints on the stone footing, and talking to that guy, Terry, he said it's very plausible that those would have been iron pillars, not wood.
Interesting.
Because there were holds for bolts that you could see a pillar being laid on top of. I'm like, oh my God, I got to rebuild my freaking roundhouse.
Yeah.
But it was so iron. I would really look into that. It's very
hopefully
possible.
I'll get when I get to the Smithsonian, or not the Smithsonian, but the National Archives, I'll be able to find some information about what the actual engineering of
That would be
building
cool,
was.
man. Oh, brother, that's
Yeah,
cool.
that'll be,
The
that's
roundhouse
one
is-
thing I've never done. That's the one archive I probably have never been in.
The roundhouse is probably only about 25 years old back in 1860s, and now it's 180 years old. So the weathering will be a little bit easier. The brick probably all would have been pretty
Similar.
uniform,
Yeah.
unlike today, and it would not have been nearly as old.
Yeah, and I've got
Good point.
the consular painting of it's really interesting because he actually shows the stone or the brick as being yellow, a yellowish color. It's like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought they would have painted it. So that's kind of interesting but he's been known to have a little liberty in some of his selection of colors and painting, and so
Correct.
you got to be a little careful in using his paintings as the actually what it was.
Yellow brick's very common in Wisconsin where it came from.
Interesting.
Yep. I don't know about Virginia, but out in Wisconsin, you'll see more yellow brick buildings than red brick
How about that?
from that era. Yeah.
Iron content in the clay probably, or
Yeah.
lack thereof.
I wonder if you could look at the contemporary building and then look at the lower level bricks. They may be the original ones, and that could give you some ideas to the original color,
Yep.
unless of course it painted them. But
That's
No, so
Yeah,
you also,
It should be fun. It'll be interesting. You know, and the thing is there isn't going to be anybody from 1861 to come over here and say, you got it all wrong.
bingo, baby. Bottom
So when I
line.
make a choice, you know, it's it's my effing railroad. So
That
at
too.
a certain point in time, you just got to go for it.
Right. Walter?
I was gonna say, I was noticing you got two different kinds of color ballast, but in the old photo, I don't see any ballast.
Yeah, it's on the ground. Those
Yeah.
tracks are on the, I've got
Dirt and
really
cinders,
good
dirt and
photos of
cinders.
the track work.
Yeah.
It's like you can't even see. Yeah, it's just this rail sitting in dirt,
That's
Yeah.
right.
basically what it looks like. So it's like, this ought to be interesting.
Yeah, it was dirt ballast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
so are those, is that a string of hopper cars that's
Yep,
on the siding there? And what are they hauling? Is that
that's coal.
coal or aggregate or something, or?
Yeah, they hauled coal out of Martinsburg, out of the coal mines in Virginia.
That's so light colored, it doesn't look like coal, but maybe they just did it differently.
Well, they
wouldn't
probably
have
wouldn't
to
have the
be-
big shakers that they're able to aggregate it and break it down into smaller pieces. They just took it out however the dynamite blew it out of the wall.
Yeah, it's big. One of those
Well,
round.
probably
shapes.
not even dynamite, probably just tobacco or
Black
probably just
powder.
black powder loads. that
They
they
didn't
A lot
have
of
dynamite
gold
at the
brick.
time that was
When-
taken.
A lot
What do you
of
think
coal will
the-
have a sheen to it.
What do you think the occasion is? It has all those people gathered back in the.
That does, I've never seen any reference to why that photo was taken or what the circumstances were at all. One day I just sat down and started counting the camels and went, holy, there isn't a regular engine in this picture. Not a one.
Well,
They're
I wonder
all
if they're showing
camels.
off the camel. Maybe the occasion was a company thing to show off their locomotives.
That may have been it.
How many locomotives did you count, Ron?
They're actually, from what I can tell, 12 of them.
And they're camelbacks, aren't they?
Yep, all of them, every one of them.
That photo was taken pre-war, wasn't it?
It's actually taken, I'm thinking 1857.
Right, and 1857 is the year that the B&O sponsored the artists' excursion. I wonder if the photograph could have been taken as part of that.
Yeah, that's a possibility. And they also reached, it could have been taken in 1859 because that's when the B&O reached Charleston on the Ohio River. So it may have been a celebration to take, yeah.
But we know there was a photographer with the artist special because you see the photograph of the woman in the crinoline skirt sitting on the pilot beam of the, you know, the photograph I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So there definitely was a photographer for that excursion train, but whether it was taken as a part of that, anyone's guess.
Yep.
Well, the arrival of a photographer was a big deal back then.
Yes, it was.
And, you know, it's no wonder the whole Roundhouse crew turned out for it.
Yep.
They probably brought out all the engines too. Hey, we'll give you a photo.
Yeah, the picture's actually a little bit larger. This kind of cropped it up a little bit. You can actually see the rest of the engine that's in the foreground here. Yeah, and it's not like those people got to stand and say cheese and then it's over with. They had to stand there for a while like that.
Right.
And there's not any real significant blurring. So they did a pretty good job of getting them all to stay stationary for the length of time they had to expose that photo.
So the folks that are in the front, you have that one fella, actually a couple, but there's one fella with a white long coat. Does that dress indicate that he is of any particular what do you call it?
Status?
Social status?
Is that or like is he maybe that's what a photographer would have worn or something like that?
I'm thinking a lot of I'm not only thinking that they got the crew from the Roundhouse, but I would have suspect that there's some dignitaries from Martinsburg in that photo.
They all look pretty well dressed. It doesn't look like it's a bunch of people that have been working all day.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. The folks that are in the foreground of maybe they are, that's some significant group, or it just happened to be where people were positioned. I don't know. I'm just guessing here.
It's a great photo. It's an awesome picture.
It is.
It is a great photo.
So that's a duster.
Yeah.
Right.
Which would be the coat worn to
From a
cover your
photographer's
good coat.
Yeah.
Riding on it.
From a photographer's perspective, you'd want the most important people
in the
to be
In the
front
front.
and center. Yeah.
Yeah, the guys in the way in the back look a lot more dressed like they just walked out of the Roundhouse and said, "Hey, we're taking a picture."
In the background.
Way in the back. You
Yeah,
can see
yeah, yeah.
One guy's got suspenders on, and but yeah, as you get closer to the camera, they get a little more dressed up.
Yeah, exactly. So I had a question, one more about your bridge. How long is that going to be on your layout, that bridge, in
Well, it's gonna
comparison to how it was actually?
It's going to get shrunk quite a bit. I actually scaled it out, and it's like, man, there's no way I could fit. I had to poke a hole in the wall. So yeah, it's going to get shrunk. So it was, I'm trying to think of what I've seen the dimensions of it. Somebody in an article talked about in a piece from the period. That's why I said several hundred feet long, or several hundred yards long.
Wow.
So a couple football fields in length.
Wow. Yeah, I guess it will be a little bit compressed. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to do some compression here.
And did you say you're going to do you're painting your own backdrop?
I'm going to secure the assistance of a student in our art department that does murals. So I'm going to probably try to do the basics of the basic contours of the geography in the background,
Right.
Just to give them some sense of what I'm looking for them to do. But taking some of those pictures where I was able to, stand off and see the rise and the topography, that'll help me kind of lay that out.
Yeah.
as I put things together, but
That's cool.
Ron, do you have any three-way stubs in your track plan? You had it up there for a second.
I don't, as I recall, there aren't any.
Wow.
Is that on the, above the locomotives in the background? Is that a hillside? And it looks like the hillside is pretty well deforested around that area, which
Yeah,
is
it was.
the situation in most of these areas. All the trees have been cleared off up there.
Well, yeah, so when you go there, which is really interesting, so the Tuscarora Creek runs all the way around the back of the property, and then the property just juts up. So this kind of sits down on a, it's not on a plateau, but it sits down in a valley that's really flat, because to the right, you can see in the present day pictures, they've got the retaining walls, the stone walls. The land rises from there up to Martinsburg. So in this right here, so this kind of sits down in a big flat valley. In fact, a couple times I've been there, this has been underwater. There's been a lot of water sitting down in here, but yeah, back up in here, and from this angle, it's a little difficult to see. And then some of it, I have a suspicion that some of this has been taken off in contemporary times, because there are all homes here on this tree line, but this land rises up away from the roundhouse, and there's actually a hill back in here. But I've also found that there were places that were elevated differently, and they just basically, we have since removed the tops of hills, flattened them out so they could build houses on them.
Mhm.
There's sections where they've actually buried the creek. There's one place that I have a photo someplace of a crossing where they crossed all 8 tracks with a road. And in 1959, I believe, they decided it was too dangerous. Who would have thunk 8 tracks going across, traveling a road cross? So they dug all that out, and they put the street underneath the tracks and built a bridge. So all that topography was changed to what it originally was. But yeah, when I looked at that, I have a photo of that crossing, and it's an old dirt street running across and it's one of the main thoroughfares through Martinsburg. So I'm sure it was heavily trafficked. And yeah, they said because of the danger, they dug all that out. And when they did that process, they had to reroute the creek. Tuscarora Creek had to be rerouted. So.
And it looks like you have a retaining wall in the right foreground of the old photo too, that corresponds pretty much with where the modern retaining wall is.
That's all wood actually, and what actually sat up here, there's a water tower that sits along this retaining wall that would have been located in some place. And one of the things I can't find is any reference to where the sand structure was at, where they kept the sand.
There would have to have been one.
Records indicate there was one, a sanding facility.
Yeah, there would have to be a sanding facility of some sort. Simply because even though Martinsburg, where the railroad is a flat area, I mean, they're going to be going up grades.
Yep.
Good steep grades.
Yeah, in the mountains.
Can they get the sand locally up there, or do they have to haul it in, you think?
That I don't know. There's actually a gravel pit not very far away. In fact, in aerial photographs, you can actually see it today. So I'm sure they had access to sand. It's just a matter of where was it located on the premises, and I don't really have a footprint. And we actually found a map that actually shows a third roundhouse, but nobody's ever been able to find any archaeological evidence that it actually existed. But it's on the map. And people have looked because it shows up on the map. And that was supposedly there in the 1860s. But so that's it.
Ron?
That's where I'm at. Yeah.
Right, just quickly, relative to the modern photo, which direction, left or right, was the station where we went through and cut across the bridge down into the area of the roundhouse.
It's to the right.
To the right.
So
Okay.
it would be on the west end of the tracks. Yeah, it's just, if you bear right around that, you see that guardrail? If you stay on that road, go to your right there where that road goes, it's right there.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yep. So that's all I have. That's been keeping me busy. That and my
I
woodwork.
really like the juxtaposition of the two images, the historic one and the modern one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just, when that kind of all came together, that was like, now I have pretty solid evidence that they're located in the exact same spot. So yeah, that was cool. Yeah, it's neat to do those sort of things, and I've got other things where it's like I know what I have a photo of what it was like then, and I also now have gone back into town and taken photos of buildings and structures that as they exist today. It's kind of fast. It's really fast. I'm sure as a photographer, that kind of stuff is really fascinating to see.
I mean, when we visited there, you know, that historic photo just puts so much in context now.
Yep.
That wasn't there when we visited it, when the group visited it.
Oh.
Amazing.
Yeah, the
Great
combination
stuff,
of
Ron.
this and Kunstler's photograph, which was taken from the other end in the other direction, you get now you can actually see the building that's behind the roundhouse. And he actually did the painting with the station and the hotel in it. So you put all these pieces together and you begin to get a pretty decent idea of what things look like and what was there and what wasn't there. And yeah, it's fascinating. So that's it.
Thank you, Ron.
Yep.
That's
And by the
wonderful.
way, John, I want you to know they're framed and they're matted and they look awesome. And they're on the opposite wall, along with a couple other period photos that I have, I actually have a print of the Kunstler painting. So they're up. So I bought a bunch of the period specific to the B&O from John.
Nice.
Unfortunately, I can't. I'm not going to get 12 Camelback photos, so I can have a. I'll be happy with the 2 I have.
You could do the Brian camera technique and just do flats.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
That was great, Ron. Thanks, man. Nice progress. Jeez. So you'll be ready for a major update in a couple of weeks then, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
God. So anybody else, you know, this is like an open time frame here. If anybody cares to share anything else of interest to the group of what you've been up to. Yeah, Kearney. Hi.
For Jerry, is Jerry still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Hey, Jerry, thank you for sending that file, and I did print it. And then I went ahead and drew some limbers to go along with it. So you don't have to go look for the limber file that you said you had.
Okay.
Okay. So we have O-scale limbers. If anybody needs O-scale limbers, and I don't know what other toys Jerry has.
There's a hand up. Charlie.
3D printed them.
Wow.
Also, if the guy who had the SMR locomotives,
yeah.
He ended up selling all of them, but the one that he sold to me to a dealer in Wisconsin, I believe. The guy wanted to do like a whole package deal. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff. But I told him that people here might be interested in some of the O-scale rolling stock, the freight cars. So he's going to try to get them back. And if anyone is interested in those, I know there are a couple of people that said they were looking for O-scale stuff. He will have them. I don't use those cars. They're a little too heavy, and I think they're a little too big for my railroad. But I think, Charlie, you use them, right?
He's talking on the mute button.
Right.
There we go.
I just started talking. You know, I had not incorporated them yet. I get to talk in a couple of weeks. I'm gonna talk about those, but I really kind of they've grown on me. And when you put them next to the BTS kits, they're really not much bigger.
Yeah.
They're a whole lot closer than I thought. And I've been taking the trucks off and gauging the wheels and putting a drop of oil on each axle box, and I've got them rolling really pretty smooth. And so my critical dimension on the layout is 56 inches, and so my trains really can't be any longer than 56 inches. I mean, in certain places they can, but that's 4 brass cars. That's quite a train. Well, it's nice. So, and the tenders on the SMR locos, those things weigh 18 ounces.
Yeah.
And I put about, I can get 1 more ounce of lead in them. And so they can, those locos can pull 4 brass cars, and they're beautiful. A couple of them, we've weathered, and they look great. So I have some. I don't think I'm interested in any more, but I think they're really, I may use them for a pontoon train or artillery train or something like that. But
Okay, well.
Say, Tom,
Yeah.
if anybody's interested, if I can share the screen, I've got a drawing of that, the existing roundhouse that's in Martinsburg. It's a cross section, so you can see the ironwork on the inside.
Sure.
You want to take a peek at that a minute?
Yeah. I know Ron doesn't want it. He's not interested, but that's all right. He'll tough it out.
Have I got the screen?
You should.
Yeah, I have all those architectural drawings.
How do I do it?
Those
You have,
are awesome.
there should be a green button that says share screen below.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ooh,
You see it?
Yep.
There you go.
yeah.
Yeah. When we were there, that was like a teepee built out of ironwork inside that they had just put a roof and a brick structure around.
Yep.
But
all of that was constructed, and all of that ironwork was done in Baltimore. And it's the first completely cast iron structure for a building that size ever done in the United States.
yeah, there are details. These drawings come from the ACWRR archives. And there are details of all these iron components that were bolted together. And what's amazing is they're all different from each other. They had so many different pieces they had to cast and send out there, but everything was cast iron.
Yep.
This is a half section, so you have to kind of imagine the other section. I think there's also a plan view drawing, and there are details of the ironwork. So,
That's dated, it's 1866. And the configuration of the dome looks a lot like the modern dome of the building, and the roof line looks like the current roundhouse and not the Civil War era roundhouse, doesn't it?
Right.
Correct. This is the one that replaced the old one.
Yeah.
So they built, it actually was constructed in 1867. These plans were drawn in 66. Yeah, I have the whole packet. All the little detailed, how it all went together. It went together like a Tinker Toy set. They shipped it out there and threw the structure up. Yeah, it's fascinating. You've got all of those. Yeah.
yeah, let me just find one of the,
It's fascinating.
yeah, it's an amazing building.
Yes, it is.
That was a real interesting meet. But here you can see the iron, all the struts.
What's the vintage of that boxcar? Is that
And that was the turntable pit. And if you look at the stone down here,
Yeah.
I guess I'm of the mind that they built the new roundhouse on the original foundation.
Yeah.
You know, that would be my vote, but I don't have any documentation to prove it. So,
That's what I'm going with, and I'm not changing my mind. That's it. Well, that was the first thing that I ever found, Jerry, with those plans. That really
Yeah.
was, and I was hoping, because I didn't know the details when I first found them, and then it's like, oh, this was built and it was actually constructed in '67. It's like, well, this isn't Civil War, but it was so fascinating. And then I found that picture and ended up in Martinsburg in their archives. And just the stories and the bellboy and the spy and she shot a Union officer for demanding that she take the Confederate flag down from her home, and she pulled a shotgun on him and shot him in the chest. And then she was the provost marshal then found her not guilty to keep the peace in the town. She ended up she was a spy for the Confederates. That's fat, and her home's still there, and that's where the Historical Society is. I think we met in that building, the Boyd home. Yes, we met in that building. But yeah, that's still there. So it's
The name of it is Boyd Home?
yes.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you, Jer.
Yep, thanks.
All right. So let's see, for next time, I think we're going to be in our is the next session the annual meet, right? Or no? 30th. 15, 16, yeah. That'll be October 15, 16. We got Charlie up on the evening of the 15th. And the 16th, Chris Gerlach is going to give us an update on his virtual City Point. Has a bunch of new stuff to share. Yeah, that should be fun. So we probably have some room for more. If anybody would care to show some slides or do a little clinic, don't be shy, and we'll slot you in. So,
Hey Bernie, can we get an update on your layout? I know you've made some changes.
we slot you in on that Saturday, Bernie, maybe on the 16th.
I'm looking at my calendar. I think I'll be, I might be in Minnesota that day.
Cancel it.
But if I have Wi-Fi, I could tune in, right? I'll have to ask Alicia. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it on the 16th. But I might be, we're celebrating my mother-in-law's 90th birthday.
Wow, there's a celebration.
Wait a minute, that's the day
Congratulations.
I think that's the day we're driving out. That's a Saturday, right?
16th, correct.
I think I might be in the hotel on the way out.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
if I have Wi-Fi, I can do it.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I got some stuff to show you guys. The big news is I'm working on that slave jail in 1/100th scale. And I met with them. I'll tell you about it next week. Should be done by then, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, I hope. I'm kind of getting tired of this slave jail myself. I built it 3 times now.
Oh, brother. Oh, yeah, that can get old.
Cool, yeah. I'll put it on
Great.
my calendar.
Good. All right, gentlemen. Well, great to see you all. And I'm glad to see everybody can make it in the first attempt. It just, you were waiting for that freaking host to show up and open up. So fortunately he did. But with that, great to see a couple of folks we haven't seen in a while, Dave Bright and Mike. And welcome to the new members, Sam and Ted. Hope to see you again sometime in the future. Everybody else, stay well, stay healthy, and build something.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks
Ron.
again for including me.
Thanks,
Oh,
guys.
my pleasure.
Thanks for remembering, Tom.
Bye,
Yes.
everybody.
Bye-bye.